Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 50 of Orchid Bay. We're having a wonderful day. 50 episodes of this series, right? Thank you for all support on it. Really crazy how big this city has gotten and how much you all continue to enjoy it each week. Really does mean the world to me. I'm glad you all managed to enjoy it so much. And today, we're not going to do a build. We're going to do a little bit of admin, but admin that's quite fun, actually. So for those that don't know and haven't followed my channel for a while, once the city reaches a significant size, which I think we would classify Orchid Bay as a pretty significant size now, we like to come in and delete every public transport line, because the chances are now, for 9 times out of 10, there's more efficient routes they can take because new interchanges have opened up, new roads have been developed, new transport hubs have been built. There's better points for convergence, and it's just a good idea, in my opinion at least, to rip it all out. For most of the time you can probably leave your metro lines in. Metro probably doesn't need to change all that much because it runs back and forth, but there are places where our train lines can probably run a little bit further. For example, I think we can feed the airport express train from this station, well, from the airport obviously, actually all the way into the downtown now, so they can ferry to the regional airport from the city centre if they need to. So that's what we're going to do today. It's going to be fun to revisit old areas of Orchid Bay and see older transport hubs in action. This place over here is always a fun one to watch, I think. It's always nice and busy over this way. And we'll also make a note of our public transport numbers as well before we do it. So we have 3,870 residents using it per week, and then 4,360 tourists using the transit a week. And our traffic flow is currently at 85 to 87-8%. It bounces up and down really. There you go, 87. Proof of the pudding. But yeah, it's not bad, is it? For a vanilla city with no traffic manager, 86% for 76,000 isn't bad at all. But should be a lot of fun. I'm going to go ahead and delete every single line in the city, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so everything except trolleybus, metro and tram has currently been deleted, because they can only really follow certain lines, especially the trolleybus and the trams. They don't really need to be deleted. But everything else can go, and we'll start ahead with our, transit hierarchy. We'll start with the trains first. So one that I really want to try out here is going to be one coming from, I think it might be a good sort of point of practice here actually, is also going back through the stations and deciding which ones can and can't allow intercity trains. I'm not sure I actually want intercity trains arriving at the airport train station, so I think we're actually going to disallow them here and just allow intercity tourists via planes. If a train wants to come in here, they can go to another station elsewhere in the city. So with that in mind, let's go ahead now and grab our new line. Then we're going to feed it all the way through here. Of course, this is all cargo, doesn't need to stop anywhere near here. So previously it came down to this way. All the people are spilling out now. All the trains have been cancelled. That's funny. So yeah, we have this train station here. So it previously went down to Karen and stopped around here. But I don't think it really needs to go there anymore. I think what we are going to do is actually feed it down onto this line now. So like we mentioned earlier, this is now going to go all the way into downtown Orchid Bay from the regional airport. We can stop here. Now this is going to be interesting here because we have a couple of different options. Because the line actually splits here as it passes through all the haven stuff we've been building in the last couple of episodes. So we're going to have this continue, and then this is going to go down into Haven. But you guys did want these train stations switching out, so we might do that today. And then it can stop here. And then obviously mirror it stops all the way back. So that is our first train line in. I would like to make this the airport express train, just so the visuals of it's actually going to the airport line. But I've got a feeling that might not be enough capacity, because this is going to be an insanely busy train line, I think. So we're going to go for Orchid Bay Regional to Old Haven. Always a good idea to name your lines when you come back to audit them. Just having them named makes them a lot easier to identify. It's a good habit to get into if you haven't already. So now we have the Orchid Bay Regional Airport to the Old Haven line, and again we'll see if that needs to have its model changed. It might do. So the second train line I want to reintroduce is over by the nice bit of Sharon, and we're going to bring this in here. So eventually we might have the capacity to run this in a full circular loop. We'll run back in with this line over here, but need to develop a lot of this area before that happens. So we're going to start here, and then this is going to come right the way down the main line, stopping in Karen. Now we could divert it off into the corner of Korea Transport Hub here, But I think we're just going to leave this as an intercity connection because there's already a train line passing through here. So this is going to come all the way into downtown Orchid Bay. This one's a pretty simple line, it can't really go anywhere else than it already does. Again, we'll come in and give this a nicer model. Let's see if we can go for... kind of want to have an older looking one really. I guess the basic vanilla one's the oldest looking train, isn't it? And for right now, this is the Sharon to downtown line because it can't go anywhere else, but will eventually extend down into the rural areas, so it'll be whatever the rural area is called. I imagine another angry middle-aged woman, probably Denise maybe, we'll go for the next town. Sounds a little bit French as well, doesn't it? Also change the colour of my lines here too. Let's have go for a yellow train on the Airport Express one. And a red on the downtown to Sharon one too. So these two stations here between Swank and the TV studio previously had a line running between them. But I think now we're just going to leave these as intercity connections for this part of town. It will be served by a lot of buses and just general walkability in this area. I don't think it particularly needs a train line to service it. So we're just going to leave these as intercity connections, I think. They're already still getting used as well, people waiting to go on them. I'm happy to leave these two stations here as intercity only. So with these ones over here, we definitely had lines running between these. So we've got trains coming down here. So we'll start this new line. This is going to run all the way through, and this one will just terminate in the same spot. But this will now come back and converge with the train lines that come from the airport, which will be quite tasty. We'll come off in a different direction, stop here again as well. That's fine, so we want to make sure that this station down here, is not set up to let intercity trains, it's an internal train line. Same with this one as well, no intercity stopping here. And yeah, I do want them to come down to this one here. Actually then again, we do have the intercity connection with the harbour here. And then the trains are going back to the airport as well from here, so I don't think we actually need intercity trains coming into this one. It's just sending them all the way down the line where they don't need to come. Where they can get to is here. Yeah, this one here, because they can come down the line and stop at this one. That's fine, and this one can't even accept intercity trains because it's not currently hooked into a train line because it doesn't really go anywhere. But for right now, we will just gently feed it into these stations here. And again, like the other line we looked at from the edge of Sharon, it has to go elsewhere first for it to kind of properly be completed. So we'll bear that one in mind just for right now. It's going to be completed further down the line, if you'll excuse the pun. So we've got Biffa Gardens to Haven Old Town, and this one right now is the Biffa Gardens to Haven Express. But again, that is probably likely to change as these lines grow out a little bit. Its final destination will obviously change from Biffa Gardens. We'll keep changing our train models, keep things interesting. And I'm also going to start another line here in the transport hub and send it down and run through the Brooklyn and Queens area. Then we're going to have this as our little express commuter train that runs back into the transport hub. Change this one to the Brooklyn and Queens style metro, and we'll call this the Brickwind and Keys Express as well. And go for a blue here, why not? Blue and yellow sharing that same line, that should be quite nice. Got all that already. Wow. Yes please everyone. So good. This is the best bit about City Skylines, isn't it? This is what all this building is for, just to see the swarm of people jumping across the train tracks. It's so dangerous, stop. Not doing that. Cool. So we'll hopefully see a train come in one day, and oh, there you go, there's one of the Airport Express lines right now. Let's just see how that line is behaving. Oh yeah, look at that. So that is crazy busy right now. We definitely need more trains on this line. We've got 783 waiting at this one. Goodness gracious everyone. So it might just be a case of, we need to actually increase the size there. I guess we could put it up to the Japanese commuter train. I would lose my Airport Express model, but 240 capacity is not enough to support 1,000 people at this stop. Holy crap. 844 further down. So people like this train line. People really like this train line, yeah. We can't have that model. We need to go for highest capacity. Railroad of Japan, 680 it needs to be. So that Orchid Bay Regional Airport to Old Haven Express is incredibly busy. This is going to be a train line that passes right through the middle of the map. Look at that. Oh my god. That's something out of Mumbai, isn't it? There we go. Here's our yellow train now. And this guy should start eating chunks of 680 out of this station at once, so that will hopefully clear down by the end of today's episode, but a couple more train lines reinstated either way. There you go, we have officially broke 1,200 people sat waiting at the stop in downtown Orchid Bay. God, that's so much fun, isn't it? That is so much fun. All crammed in there like sardines. Absolutely horrendous, by the way, to experience in real life. I used to have to commute in London back in the day, and I could not imagine anything worse than this right now, but incredibly satisfying to watch in cities, right? Anyway, enjoy the walking porn, everyone. It's only going to get more intense from this point. I think as well, I've just realised we haven't actually added a stop to both sides of this monorail platform. I don't think we ever did that. So that should hopefully start stopping both sides now. But while we're here in the main transit hub as well, let's just have a little audit of our monorail to make sure it doesn't need any more vehicles or stops added to it. It's okay, it's not too bad. Still plenty of room, it's quite far spread as well, so monorail's fine. Let's have a look at the trams too. We've got 466 on the Memorial line. How are we doing for stops here? Let's have a little look at the main tram line. Again, stops aren't horrifically busy, still lots of space on the vehicles. 117 here, but that's going to be cleared up, I guess, isn't it? Where's this at? Yeah, just outside our transit hub station, so you would expect those ones to be busy. But we don't need to upgrade that tram line. I know the other ones seem to be okay as well. There we go, so those Railroad of Japan Express trains are finally making a dent in this station now. Just so busy, isn't it? Amazing. Absolutely. I think Orchid Bay's transport network is the most efficient we've ever run through. But either way, let's now turn our attention towards the bus lines. So let's have a little look at our buses now. So we have a couple of bus stops across the city, one at the regional airport. There's a couple of intercity stops knocking around over here that we can use as hubs to basically spread out several lines. And I think that's the best way to kind of handle buses, is we have lots of them meeting at one place and then they all disperse around to collect people from various suburbs and whatnot, and converging with other public transport stops where possible as well. So that's what we'll do here. So we'll start a brand new line. If I remember rightly, we didn't actually have too many people using this one over here, but we'll bring it back through anyway. So we'll feed this one out of the terminal. So another good thing to look out for when you're placing these stops again is for points of convergence near pathways, so they can hop over a network or through a set of buildings. So converging them with other stops and pathways is usually the best kind of rule of thumb I've found. So we'll feed this down the arterial road. It's going to service our industry here. It can service the farms. It's going to come back through them as well. So come down the main road. Stop in where we need you to. Come into the suburb. Collect a bunch of these people here. Again, drop them back off at the industry where needed. You can come back and collect some more people down this way. And then as you join the arterial road, you can mirror your stops, again serving the industry. And then this can loop back up through here. Give this a name. And now I know that this is the Orchid Bay Regional to the Fields of Golden, and this is a pretty rural area, so I want the vehicle to reflect that. And I think we'll go for the Railroad Japan commuter bus. So let's go for minibus maybe. Oh, there's so much choice. I can't imagine it's going to be overly busy, so a 20 capacity small bus should be enough for that. But we'll of course wait and see. So that's going to serve this area nicely. Back to the airport. Let's go ahead and get another one in now. So we'll have this one here. You're going to come again out the terminal and then stopping here again near another pathway to that industrial area. Come straight across the highway. And then we'll serve this industrial area over here. So it can do a loop around it, stopping at the refinery, stop again on your way out. And then that should be okay actually. We'll just help it serve that industry, and then it can converge with this, and people in Fields of Golden can exchange the buses here if they want to get across to that one. So we'll do OB Regional to the Pear Tree. And again, I want a kind of smaller, more industrial looking bus for this, like it's just ferrying workers back and two. So I think we'll go with the Railroad Japan commuter bus for that one. Change the lines up a little bit as well. Look at all those people walking in the terminals as well. How great is that? Things that we love to see. Very exciting. Cool. So I imagine we're going to feed more lines out of this bus terminal here once these areas exist. But for right now, we just have the public transport capacity for them. So that should be a lot of fun. So let's move down here. Ignore the Ford graveyard. I'll sort that out later on. So there's all our buses coming out. Now our next bus point of interest, if you like, is these little man-made terminals over here that we did as part of the Two Church Town Centre. So I definitely want to reconfigure these together. So let's start one here, and this I think is going to come down this way, because we have a bus priority road here, don't we? Yeah, so we're going to send it down into the suburb. That's it, because we're going to be stopping by a number of schools on this line, we will make this the school bus line. That's going to be most appropriate, I think, isn't it? So we'll feed it through suburbia, again stopping at pathways and unique buildings. Convergence points where it can meet with the tram would be handy. We'll send it deep into this one here. It can stop outside the high school again, so the school bus will be aesthetically functional. And then it can run through a couple of these residential blocks, picking up people every couple of blocks or so. And with bus lines, I found every 2 to 3 blocks is an efficient use of them. Have it stop here. The trams aren't stopping here, are they? I don't think. No, they stop on the other side. Yeah, over there, don't they? That's fine. And then it can just basically head back through the suburb here, can't it? And make everyone in the radius happy. Come back through its bus priority road. Cool. And then this one here should be school bus, and we will say this is the Two Church school line. The bus thing is doing a bit of a weird turnaround here, isn't it? Not sure why that is. I think I actually want to upgrade. This is a tram road, isn't it? Yeah. I think if we upgrade into two-way with tram tracks here, our bus line should behave itself and do the proper loop there and actually use the system. Yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted to do. Move back through, stop there, so now the school buses. That's nice. So Two Church is now served by a tram and a bus line, so a lot of this suburbia here is pretty much catered for. But there's definitely more convergence that we can have in. So let's come back in now and create a second line on our little man-made bus stop over this way. I mean, all bus stops are man-made, not like they're naturally occurring things. But now I want to bring this down the arterial to essentially start converging with these bus lines over here. And I think we will even send it to the regional airport as a little shuttle bus. Of course you could take the train there, you know, but it's nice to take the bus as well. So we're going to bring this down the main road. Again, it's going to come through this little bus priority area, which we prepared for in our network planning. Converge with the trams again, and probably just keep it mirrored with the trams actually. It's going to be quite a nice barometer for it. We don't want these stops too close to a junction, otherwise if you're using a long bus like an articulated one, the arse end kind of hangs out and blocks the road. So you want to be careful with that. Yep, have them here. Stopping by more residential. This is wonderful news. Yep, and then come right over here, stop down this way to meet with these stops here, and then come into the regional airport, and then we come back out and you can just mirror your stops all the way back now. Over here, you see there, that's not where we want one. We want it to be sort of the top end of the junction so the back end isn't hanging out, but we'll try and account for that where we can. Stopping roughly in the same spots. Back through there, and then you will come get back through that one-way system to complete your line there. And then this one is Two Church to the Orchid Bay Regional Airport, and I imagine this one's going to be a busier line, so we'll go for a higher capacity here. Let's go for the regular 50 articulated. We'll have this be a dark orange number. Why not? The next what I want to do here is to come up and feed the industrial areas of Two Church, so we're going to do the farms and prepare to farm university. So we'll start from here again, we'll feed this up, and then you can, what's the best way for you to exit here? Probably down the couplet system, isn't it? So we'll stop once on the couplet, again reaching more people over this side. Another great opportunity to stop here again by this pathway, lots of convergence back into the suburb. Before you cut back through the farms here, picking up some more people, and then you can converge again with the couplet system outside the university, back down this way, and then coming the hook back in with the line over this side. And then we'll name this one to be to church, to prepare to farm, university. We're getting a lot of bus models coming out at once. It's just a symptom of redrawing your lines. You probably will have a little bit of traffic until they all spread out again. It's just waiting for that simulation to resume itself. How are we doing here? 14 vehicles seems a little overkill for this one. I might actually reduce that. Let's bring that down to 10 or something. 14 seems a little too many. Only a fairly short line, that airport one. So we're getting some more stupid turnaround stuff here. So we'll actually move the platform across to the other side and then they'll loop around, which is fine by me. That's okay. They can do that. That's no problem. And then we've got another platform here. Of course, you do have mirrored platforms, so we can do both sides here if we want to. So we're going to send the next one out down here to come down the couplet road, and then it's going to come into the James Redwood suburbs before stopping again by this little garden and converging with this major train hub that we've got going on. And then I want you to come out down the suburb and actually come and stop at this intercity hub over here. And then just mirror yourself coming all the way back out. Stop over here again. And we'll move the stop the other side so he actually uses the system like that. So that's just going to link all this connections here in with an intercity bus stop further down. And then we're kind of like bunny hopping from one bus stop to the other. And we'll do that same process from this one to this one. And then probably from this one up here into the bus terminal at Wingfour Hills as well. So that bus line there again is to Church, to Olive Square. And I can't imagine it's going to be super busy, so we'll just go for a smaller 22 capacity number. Change some colours here as well, get some more interesting coloured buses knocking about. Some classic reds, of course. Wonderful. Cool. So as that new shuttle bus moves around the suburbs, it's obviously going to serve James Redwoods here. Where people can take pathways to converge with the trams. It's going to be just amazingly satisfying to watch it all come together, I think. So that is now basically a lot of to Church and the industrial areas catered for with public transit now. We're hopefully not seeing horrendous amounts of traffic or buses backing up. Should probably see a lot more people cycling as well, I imagine, with the public transport being redrawn. Okay, so you get this with the articulated buses. It's super, super annoying. They do block the road here. Like, use the other lane, you idiot. Just go the other way. But yes, it is a slight and vanilla annoyance, but nothing that's going to cause us too much trouble. Yeah, we had, what, 87% traffic, didn't we? It's only a very minor inconvenience. There we go. The bus is moving around now. People started to appear at the stations as well. Okay, so now I want to make another distance connection, starting from here. And we're going to come down and stop in the square. Then down the couplet system. And we'll stop also here too. And then this is going to go to Wingfour Hills. As just a long distance connection that takes people back and to from suburb to suburb without them needing to take a car or to walk what is a pretty significant distance from here. And then we'll just mirror this one back down the couplet as it comes. We can also converge here with another line, which is going to be handy. And then it can come all the way down here and then back through the system to stop there. And that's going to be to Church, to the Wingfour Hills Express, which will be nice. And let's go for 30 capacity bus on that one. That one shouldn't be massively busy, I don't think. We should be okay. But that leaves this area pretty well served now, I think. I'm happy with this. Let's now come over to Wingfour Hills while we're over here. So I imagine there's going to be quite a lot of new connections to make out this way to converge with Karen and Sharon now that those towns exist, because when we built this bus terminal, of course they didn't. So we'll stop here. This one will be probably just the local suburban line for Wingfour Hills, I imagine. We'll have this just do a general loop around the suburbia. Up in by sports parks and high density where needed. And back up this way and then connect in here. And then we'll also mirror that line around the opposite side of the suburbia as well, because it's not coming back on itself. So this can be the Wing 4 Hills A service, and the other one can be the Wing 4 Hills B service, because they're just mirrored lines. And I'm after a smaller capacity number here, so we'll go for the 30 capacity models again. And we'll do sort of a black and white thing with these, so we know that they're mirrored lines. Incredibly satisfying watching all your naming conventions pile up as well. That's one of the best things about this audit. Wonderful. Well, that's cool. That's going to start serving Wing 4 Hills with bus service now, getting everyone back to the town centre, which again converges with a bus line that takes them back to Two Church, which also converges with intercity connections and trains and airports. So all about these convergence points. Probably the most important aspect of transit, I think, is letting people change from sort of one line or one method to the next. So let's create a new line from the Wings 4 bus terminal, and then we're going to send this down the main street, I think. Yeah, let's come out this way. We'll stop just before the junction. And then again on the main road near the schools and the houses. Then come down into Karen. Which doesn't really sound great, that does it? It could be misinterpreted. So let's bring this down into the stops again, which is going to stop with metro and trolley buses in Karen Town Centre. That's wonderful news. Stop once more again with the trolley buses here, and then come back through the town centre, stopping again at pathways and convergence points here, and then this can come back up to probably mirror its stops on this road actually, and then come back up to the stop here. Open up this new line is Wing 4 Hills to Karen. This one's going to be quite busy, I bet, so we might go for a double decker for this one. Let's go for a red right double deckers, can't be any other colour I don't think. Especially for a British person like myself. Cool, and then we'll use the final corner of this line here to do a Wing 4 Hills to Sharon service, but this time we'll actually take the back road out of town, we won't go over the highway interchange. So come down here, again stopping in suburbia where people are going to be happy, and then you want to come all the way down here, stop by these offices, you can come down Main Street Sharon, mixing and matching with those trolley bus services. And can we take you on the bus only roads? Yes we can, that's great. So we'll have a bus stop here with the trolley buses again, and then this can just mirror itself now, heading back out of Sharon. Gonna hit all these people with public transit. Stop again on your way back out here, and then come back up into Wing 4 Hills from whence you came. And that new line now is Wing 4 Hills to Sharon. Wonderful. The Wing 4 Hills is now well established and connected into its other towns alongside intercity connections as well. And we'll hopefully see some people moving around this little bus terminal now that we did ages ago. And of course this is actually a school, isn't it? So we could replace one of these. I think we will actually do that. Let's go for this one here. Let's change this bus line into a school bus, because we're stopping by schools here, so again, always nice to have that visual if you can afford it. Cool, so all these buses now mingling and staggering out across their lines. Will take a while to get there, but it'll be happy once it's all done. And that leaves Wing 4 Hills relatively well connected now, I think, doesn't it? With its local towns and in-city connections now back to Karen, which is obviously the larger town. And then back to the hunting grounds over here too, and James Redwoods, of course. So let's have a little train update here, shall we? See how this is doing. Still insanely busy, isn't it? So this is an example of, where we might need more trains on a line, because there's like thousands waiting. But what we will do is we'll do that at the end. So once all the lines are redrawn, we will then come back in and sort of have a look how everything's performing, and then adjust the trains off of that data, basically, rather than doing it now. Because by the time we add more lines in, they might get quieter, and then those extra vehicles are basically redundant. So let's carry on with our buses. So let's move over now to this one over here. We've been playing with this one already, so we'll add a new line in. Then let's just see what local connections need to be serviced here. So James Redwoods and Freyden Square, Wadey Waters could probably do with a bus line. Weaving through these areas here, so I think that's the first one we'll go for. So we'll send this out here. We're going to stop again public transport convergence with the tram line that's coming through here. That's going to be a nice little switch point for them. And then come down the suburb, join the couplet system while stopping on it, and then come back into Freyden Square. Shout out to our patron subscriber Freyden, or we shout out our other patron subscriber Kaz Wadey. Thank you for your support, guys, appreciate you both. And then that's pretty simple actually. We'll just speed that back up. We might as well stop here again actually, we'll add that one back in a second. That'll come up there, and then up to there we go. And then let's add a stop here. And there's one further down the road, so no need to stop again there. We'll grab this one in. Let's go for Freyden Square to Wadey Waters. This is just a real simple suburban line. And we'll set that as a 30 capacity bus as well. Splendid and tremendous. So that's going to be served now. These areas starting to pick up a little bit here, aren't they? The Briarwood Park suburb also wants a connection over here as well, so let's add this one in. Where's your simplest route if you want to come off the couplet system? Yeah, that's probably it, isn't it? So we'll take you down here then. Stop on the couplet, by the trams, and then come up through here. We're actually passing by schools here, so there's an excuse to make this a school bus line if we wanted to. Then we'll come down here, we'll send it through the suburb, and imagine this is going to mirror itself at some point as it comes back through. I've just remembered, actually you guys have been telling me this for weeks now. I forgot to add this stop back in quite a long time ago, so let's do that now while we're here. Let's wrangle this in, and then we'll do a little bridge connection down there. Thank you for telling me every week. I totally forgot to reinstate that line, and then the hierarchy just wants to change around here now, doesn't it? We were mixing and matching industry and things over here, I think, were we? Ah, screw it, let's just go for a bit more commercial over this way, that'll be fine. Thank you, it is finally reinstated now. Don't worry, I know. Every week you guys were telling me, and I've finally done it. Cool, so this can come up through here. All the way down there again, stopping at this pathway where it can converge with the tram lines. Another great spot for it to come and stop in at. And then as it passes back out the suburb, it can just mirror its stops. No point sending it up into the hills here. It's only going to have to turn around, and they can walk down to the stops if they need them. You don't have to cover every street with public transport. Don't think you have to do that. Yes, and that can come in. And this one here is Olive Square to Briarwood Park. And again, it's a really small suburban line, so we don't need anything over 30 capacity for that. It's going to be pretty chill, I think. So now I'd like to do what we did earlier by creating kind of a bunny hop from a major bus hub to another major bus hub with a bus. So now let's add a stop that's going to come down through Olive Square, stopping again with the metro station. And we've got spaces for our buses to stop here. And then stop again in the intercity hub. You can use the bus turnaround pointing this way. And then come back up and mirror yourself as you head back through the office park. And then into the intercity hub again as well. So this is going to go from Olive Square up to Creasy Gardens, isn't it? Cool, so I'm pretty happy with the coverage that's going on here now. Looking a little bit more efficiently laid out, isn't it? Suburb streets being served by buses whilst all meeting with major convergence points or on train and metro and whatnot. Definitely looking a lot neater now, a lot more purposely planned. Now we know where all our roads are going, rather than expanding the bus lines as the road grows with it, I guess. So I'm pretty happy with that. We've already got a ton of residents using... But we've actually got pretty similar numbers, haven't we? If not a little bit more than when we started. And we've not even finished drawing the lines in yet. Just goes to show how efficient this can be, right? That's wonderful news. This is growing up. So now let's come and reinstate the bus lines around this bit of the city. And the first one I want to do, and definitely not forget about, is the Jigglypuff line. A super famous bus line in Orchid Bay that runs all the way down this downtown bus express line, so we definitely want to reinstate this. Again, stopping at stadiums, great convergence point here with underground metro. Stopping outside the stadium where all these pathways are, yes please. Come stop here again at the metro. And then you're coming into the Brickwind and Keys area here, this is great news. Yep, all the way down. Start with pathways. Then we'll stop at the university before this loops all the way back into an intercity hub down this end of the island. I think I'm on board with that. and then it can mirror its line as it heads all the way down. Fabulous. And then we'll grab this one. This is going to be the Jigglypuff downtown ring, and then we'll go for the big pink double-decker number, wasn't it? So we'll have double-decker airport bus, even though it's not going to an airport, so it shouldn't really be airport, should it? Just a regular one will be fine. And then this has to be a very pink line, as pink as we can get it. Cool. So that now sends that bus all the way down this bus system that we integrated into the city many years ago. So we'll carry on setting up some new ones from this way. Just gonna feed them up into appropriate suburbia. Where do we want to send this one actually? I guess it'd be good to service Umazon Square, wouldn't it, from this point? Let's do that. We'll send this one up into the city. There's a couple of places this can stop actually. Again, an excuse to me, it's a school bus line because we're stopping by schools here. But yeah, stop by all this public transport here where the buses are. Once again by the metro. And then you can come down the street, stopping by the stadium, loop back through the bus system to come back through here. And this one is Creasy's Gardens to Umazon Square. Again, pretty small suburban route, so it doesn't need to be a massive vehicle. So now I want to do the big downtown arterial bus that's going to go down Main Street. This one's a very important one. So again, we'll feed it down, stopping with another bus line here where it can converge with the metro and that second bus stop. Here, directly outside of the major transport hub. Stopping by schools, and that's it. Let's bring it up a bit further up the road. It can stop with this metro here. Neighbourhood is residential. They're going to be tremendously happy with that. Keep stopping every other block in the downtown. Stop with the trams, come down and stop at the main financial square. And then we'll feed this down to the stadium. And then we'll get it to stop and turn around in the Brickland and Keys, converging again with more metro and trains. Just observing this tram line actually, maybe the tram line could do with the stop down this street here. It feels a little long to go without a stop there maybe. I know the buses are compensating for it now, but I reckon a tram stop would probably perform quite well down there. So this is fine, yeah, stop here again as well, same stop as the other one. Then come back through. And then that line is going to be quite a large bus, so I'm just going to be quite busy. So we'll go for a bendy bus. And then this is Creasy Gardens to downtown service. Have a look at our busiest bus line so far. What are we having a look at right now? Wingfour Hills to Karen service is definitely the busiest, isn't it? Let's have a little examine of this, make sure we're not missing too many vehicles. Yeah, still plenty of capacity on the vehicles. And the stops themselves aren't horrifically busy, so it's well serviced, that one. I imagine that's a lot of people wanting to get out of Karen to Wingfour Hills. I think it's more of an emergency escape route than actual public transport service, isn't it? So I'd like to do another public transit hub hop now, if you like. So we're going to send a service up the couplet system, where I'm actually going to stop on the couplet because there's connections into the stadium here. And this is going to come down, it's going to meet up again with more pathways and convergence over this way. Doesn't need to stop any time before that. We're going to feed this into the ferry harbour. It can then come back out before stopping here. Down by Becky Bars again. And then it can just mirror its stops as it leaves the couplet system. Stop by the park. Stop again where the pathways are. And then you should come down. So what we're playing with here, this is going to be Creasy Gardens to the ferry harbour. And that's going to be a decently enough busy line, I think. I think we'll probably go for an articulated number there. So Creasy Gardens is pretty well populated now. We've got 2 more spare platforms to use if we ever want to feed a future line out, which I imagine we will do once this area of the couplet develops, but there's nothing down here for it to go to at the minute, so don't need to draw those in just yet. But 2 spare platforms to use for that service. We could also hook in a bus to Karen, but it's within walking distance and there's already buses and trolley buses converging with a stop by this way, so I don't think it's the most necessary connection. I think it'd be a little bit overkill, so we probably won't connect Creasy Gardens in with Karen. They can either walk or converge with another line. There's also Metro serving that connection as well. So now let's head over to the Ferry Harbour, because I'd like to do a little shuttle here that goes... So we'll feed this down the couplet system. We can stop by the Five Rings Park, again where pathways are going on and off. And then you can just... Where can we actually stop you? Can we stop you on the terminal buildings? Yes, we can. That's very handy, actually. Yeah, so stop outside each terminal. That's going to be wonderful. And then just mirror yourself going back out here. That's the most appropriate choice here, is it? Yes, it is. And then stop here again, meeting with the main central transit hub, which is such an important sort of crown in Orchid Bay's transport infrastructure. Stop by the hotels. Once again by the metro before completing your line back to the Ferry Harbour. And then this one will be Ferry Harbour to Orchid Bay International Airport. Fabulous. And again, kind of a smaller capacity line, I think. It's not going to be overly busy because there's metro and monorail around here as well, helping with the load, so smaller capacity vehicle should be alright in that regard. Cool, so that's good now, that's growing up. These are all served and interlinking with one another. We've got bus lines coming through the downtown, linking up with that Jigglypuff bus line on the sort of circular ring, bus ring if you like. It's not really a ring, is it? It's like a bus scythe, I guess, is the shape. I can't really call it a bus ring, can I? Because it doesn't come back down here. Which, in planning hindsight, would have been very nice actually if we kept that going, but there's too much infrastructure in the way now for that to happen. Maybe next time, right? We can always learn from our experiences. But this is fantastic news. This is all flowing now. Public transport numbers are looking very healthy. There's another major bus terminal over here by the Lunar Mall. So this is definitely an important one because this served all Swank and the Orchid Bay Eye builds and Biffa Gardens all had buses coming out of here. So let's turn our attention to this one. So we will create, I'll just shout out as well, I love this bus terminal design here. How cute is that, right? Just angled bus road. Draw the road in, place your asset, delete the road, and then create the connection. Much realistic bus space, isn't it? As a side note. Cool, so let's service Biffa with a bus. Bring it down here. Stop by your train stations, come right through the middle of Biffa's garden. All the way through here, stop by the cricket pitches. I come back out onto the arterial road, serve all these houses here with fresh bush action, and then serve that back in. I think what we can do here actually is justify having a mirrored A and B service line for Biffa's suburb. Keep that going around. Mirror those stops. And converging with train lines. And then once again on the arterial, and then back in. And then we know that those two unnamed lines are the Biffa Gardens A service and then the Biffa Gardens B service. And Biffa is red and white, isn't he? So I guess we'll match his bus lines to complement those colours. It's a slightly brighter red than that though, isn't he? Not that it matters. It's super pedantic, but we can do that, right? So we'll brand the Biffa Garden buses up. Again, I think standard bus models should be appropriate. It's not going to be an overly busy line. Okay, it's just a pretty simple suburb. There's paths as well. Be interesting actually to revisit some of the hot walking pawn spots in Orchid Bay to see how they could perform with all the public transport sort of better connected now. Wish we had some walking stats. I'd love to see how many people walk. Just sit here all day and watch this, couldn't you? We need to make a short of this area, to be honest. So of course, since we've been over here when we built this ages ago now, the road tunnel is now a connection. So we can feed a bus from Biffa Gardens to Old Haven over this way. So let's do this. We're going to take this one through the suburb. It can stop here, converging with the Biffa bus lines. And then once more before it leaves town, and then it's going to come all the way through. And where could we stop? We could send these straight into the Ferry Harbour here, couldn't we? Let's do that. We'll also stop outside the train stations as well, though. Into the harbour. Stop. I guess it didn't stop one more time, was it? Yeah, that's fine there. And then we'll bring this back through the mountain road, stop again at the suburb, and then come back in here. And then this new bus line is Bifford Gardens to Old Haven. Fantastic news. So let's create a new line now. We'll service Orchid Bay Eye from the Bifford Gardens, or the Lunar Mall stop rather. So let's bring it up into the suburb. We can travel down the highway roads, come down this area here. We will also come down the Barlow Boulevard here because this is all bus dedicated roads. Do a little loop in the suburb here, stop a little bit further around than that actually. And then you can mirror your way back down here. And we'll actually come back this way as it splits off the bus system. And then we can send this all the way back, I think. I don't think there's a reason to stop on these roads here because they're all, well, we can't anyway because they're all highway roads, aren't they? And then this is Bifford Gardens to Orchid Bay Eye, which is such a great name suggestion, wasn't it? For our, one of our AI builds. Both splendid and tremendous. So these lines are coming together now. Let's add a new one, and we're going to come and serve Swank with this. So we'll loop around the edge of the suburb, come up to this metro station, again for a little bit more convergence. You can come down the main road, again where we will meet with tram stops here. Let's just stop it there so the trams are much closer. Then it can stop again outside an intercity train station here, which is getting a little bit of use. Not the busiest thing ever. Very, very quiet for a train station. But it does allow an intercity connection this deep into the city, I suppose. Yes, and then just meander your way in and around various parts of Swank. But once more here. And then complete the line at this point. And now this is probably a line that would benefit from a lot, well, from a mirrored line basically, an A and B service like we have in a few places. So we will actually allow for that to happen. Let's send it on a mirrored run around the suburbs. Stopping again at the train station. Let's actually mirror the stop on the opposite side of the campus building. Bring this back down here. Stopping again with the metro. Over here again as well. And cashback. Everyone's going to be happy there. And we've got the capacity for one more line here, I think. Bifford Gardens is an incredibly busy bus hub. So that's Bifford Gardens to Swank A, and then Bifford Gardens to Swank B. Fabulous. Of course, shitloads of bus traffic is going to come out here. Just have to deal with it. It will eventually stagger out, of course. I think I also want to change a couple of the bus colours here. Let's go for fairly random. Let's not try and choose a colour. Just sort of leave it where it lands. I'll do a randoms poll here. A bit of a purple number. I feel like there's too many generic blue bus lines knocking about. So I think we've got the capacity for one more bus line here. And we're going to feed this down the arterial system. So stop again with metro and trains. Once more on your way out of town with pathways. And then we're going to come right through this suburb here. So let's go stop by this park if we can. Bring it down this way. Up again by the junction. Then cross over the island here, and then we'll service the fun fair and all the TV studio stuff here with bus lanes. Bring this right down the middle. Stopping at various points of interest, of course. Convergence where we can see it. That's going to be a good spot there. Over here, stop outside the train stations, again converging with the Swank A and B lines, and then come back down the middle of Swank, and then you can stop back in the line there, and that's going to run for a good old while, isn't it? So we'll have Bifford Gardens up to, and I imagine this one is going to need to be a significant sized bus because it's going quite a distance, so we'll go for the articulated number for that one, I think. A bus line, so Creasy Gardens to downtown, now the busiest line by far. We've got 330 people waiting to get this one here. Look at that, everyone. Yes, please. So good. They're still staggering. You see how they're still really close on their lines? Like they're still staggering out, really, so hard to tell yet whether it might need more vehicles. I imagine this one probably will, but again, leave the simulation running for a bit once you've done this, and then analyse the numbers to see whether or not each line needs another vehicle, because it probably won't once they've staggered and properly distributed across the line. Cool, but that leaves a lot of these suburbs here serviced by bus, and there's a lot of underground metro here as well, doing a lot of work that we can't really see. You abandoned, you need to be regrown? Yes you do. clear up some abandonment while we're here. That was a purposeful abandonment over there as well, wasn't it? And I think I'd also like to actually mirror this service down the other way, the arterial, but not have it loop back to Biffa Gardens. So where we will do this is, where's the best place to turn this around? Probably here, isn't it? So we'll add a bus stop here, and then this is essentially going to mirror the Mad Dazza bus line, but not back to Biffa Gardens, just mirroring it down the arterial road here. So both sides of the road are being serviced. Yeah, come back through this way, and then you can actually leave. And then, where could we actually get you back to? We can't cross here. I think we'll bring it on the bridge, actually. Let's go ahead and do that. So we'll send this to run down the arterial through Brickland and Keys. It can stop by these buses over here again. And then it can get on the bridge and then repeat the stops coming down this way. Before eventually looping all the way back through and completing its line. Filter by line name and find the only one that should be unnamed, bus line 27. And this goes from Swank Square to Brickland. And I imagine that one is probably going to be a busier bus line, so we'll prepare an articulated bus to serve that one as well. So there's now very little space that isn't covered by some kind of bus line. This one is here, it's just very pale, you can hardly see that actually, but it is there. Yeah, so everything's pretty well covered now, isn't it? And if it isn't covered, for example, these spaces, you know, they can walk to a train station, or they can walk to a tram stop, or another bus stop down here, so... You know, don't get into the habit of thinking every road must have public transit on it for it to be efficient. It's all about picking the points to converge and where the stops meet like this, and just a lot of fun, you know. Probably see some people stopping here and switching to tram, vice versa, switching and getting off the bus and walking down the pedestrian road. Just the best, isn't it? Really love public transport stuff in this game. I hope it's just as addictive in cities too. I'm going to be quite disappointed if it's not. Cool, so for the bulk of the infrastructure over here now, we're all set up and relatively interconnected. We're certainly serving more tourists per week with the public transport and more residents already. So we'll let those numbers keep growing, and of course these numbers are only going to grow up as well once we come to actually increase the number of vehicles. So we've got these areas over here that I've been working on last few episodes. You got noise pollution. I like you there though, you're just going to have to deal with it, I'm afraid. Mayor of the Year. So let's create a new line at the bus turbo, and then we're going to feed this one down our roads, and you're going to come... Actually, yeah, let's feed you back into Old Haven over here. Again, stopping by train stations, parks, etc., pathways. You can come through here. We're going to stop outside our train stations before you actually loop back up through this little downtown waterfront district to complete your line, which again is going to be a mirrored line. So for this one, we're just going to go for Old Haven A service, and then we'll do the same thing again. Let's go ahead and create a new line, and then we just want this mirror in the one that we just drawn in, and then we can have this as the Old Haven B service to function as such. Now this will have to get back on the highway to complete its line, but that's okay. So we'd actually, rather than send it back down the waterfront road, we will actually send them this way. And then it can complete its loop, which will be Old Haven B. Then let's filter for our names again. And these two I want to be the old European, or at least London style double-decker buses, because we had this themed in the build, didn't we? So we'll leave those to run out as well. So I also wanted to create a bus line that goes to the JC Sandals Cargo and Co. as a little bit of a bus loop to serve workers. And yeah, I guess this can stop here actually. It's going to make sense for it, isn't it? Complete that line. Go ahead and get it. This one again only needs to be small. We'll go for the Japanese commuter bus. And then we'll have this as the JC Cargo Harbour shuttle that just takes workers back and to from the other side of the bay if they need to get over there. So in terms of our public transport numbers, already significantly higher than they were at the start of the episode, right? So I think that's pretty much everything drawn in now. I'm pretty happy with the bus convergences. We've repopulated all the bus hubs. And of course the metro lines can only flow on metro, so there's not too much point in changing those really. And all of our train stations are hooked back in now too, which is very fancy. So I think what I'm going to do now is just leave the game to simulate for maybe an hour, let every vehicle stagger out to the point that it should be, and then we'll come back in and just have a look at every line. Make sure we don't need to increase vehicles anywhere. I imagine the train lines are going to be, especially that new one, yeah, 1,700 passengers on this. This line almost definitely needs a few more trains, doesn't it? So let's go for, I mean, there's some of them that are even full at 680 capacity. Let's go for 11 trains on this line, and we'll see if we can start to chip away at some of these enormous station numbers, because it's very, very busy. But yeah, that one definitely needed adjusting. So that's what I'll do. Leave the game to simulate, let all our lines stagger out and everyone get comfortable. And then we'll do some final adjustments and then enjoy some cinematics of our extremely busy transit hubs. So, we'll be right back. Okay guys, so I've left things running for about an hour now, and we're at 6,375 tourists and 5,184 residents. Things are just wonderfully busy. It's tremendously satisfying to see. All of our bus lines have been tweaked now to make sure we're having enough vehicles on the line. So our busiest bus line is the Creasy Gardens to Downtown line, which of course is one that runs from Creasy Gardens to Downtown, thanks to its naming convention. And it is running an articulated bus, and you can see now, definitely needs it. They're super busy. There's 159 over at this stop here, but again, this is where it's converging with trains, so you would expect this one to be a little bit busier. Coming back into our public transport, obviously we haven't touched trolleybus today, but everyone's still happy and nice and busy. Up to 6,375 now, more tourists getting to use the public transit. So we've increased by nearly, like, what, 25% there? More usage just from redrawing them and having a bit of an audit. Definitely worth it. Okay, it's still climbing now. 6,464. Well, metro lines we haven't really touched today, but metro is fine. The train lines are where it gets really interesting, because this was the busiest line that we saw. Adding those extra vehicles on has certainly taken a dent out of the stations, with a lot of the trains having pretty much 300 people and over on them pretty much at all times. 451, there's still several hundred sat at the major stops. This one here has just been cleared out. So really happy to see this super mega busy train line flowing through Orchid Bay. Definitely worth doing. It's a lot of fun as well, just to go back to all your old transit infrastructure and see them all move around. There's nothing else in gaming makes me smile this much, you know, than seeing cities walking porn in a nicely designed city. It's tremendous amount of fun, everyone. But nice numbers today. Big increase in the usership of the public transport, and even now after me waiting for a little bit for everything just to stagger out, it is still increasing. So happy days indeed. Otherwise guys, that is going to do it for today. If you've enjoyed, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Even as much if you haven't enjoyed it, feel free to leave me a dislike as well. I apologise again for nasally egg voice. I've actually picked up COVID, which is super irritating. There's a new strain across the UK at the minute, so yeah, really hitting my chest and my sinuses. I'm sure you can hear it, so I'm really sorry if it's irritating to listen to. Hope you're still managing to enjoy the videos either way. I hope that today's exercise in public transit auditing of tearing everything out and redrawing it now you have new connections in, new transport hubs active, it can be really helpful. It'll take a lot more traffic off your roads when you've got efficient public transport. And of course, designing it in as you're building the city is just as important as doing an audit 50 episodes into a series. You've got to make sure that it's following your arterials and converging with major points like airports and big clusters of unique buildings and concert arenas, larger parks, etc. It's all really important. I'll leave some brief cinematics up of busy hubs because we haven't really done a build today. Otherwise, I would like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.